How's it going, everybody? William the Bastard here. Welcome to William the Bastard Slaps You Awake. I want to talk about a couple things. First of all, this will be in 3 segments. This episode will be in 3 segments. The first one is regarding fellow TIs and fellow victims of voice-to-skull and remote neural monitoring. Been getting some reports from friends and people online, as well as other stories about a remote neural monitoring and voice-to-skull video game that runs in concurrence with apps that can see through walls, satellite advantages that I've displayed that are readily available to anyone, being used to create people into video game characters. It is the most immoral, sickest thing I think I've ever heard. And I do have to admit, there has been times, especially since my torturing began back in June of 2012, that I have noticed statements that would make me think that I was a character on a video game, or at least that's what it sounds like. They try to get you to do certain actions to score points, or perhaps even dollars. That's right. If they can get you to do certain things, if they can psych you out, the people funding the stocks may just give them a big fat kickback. I've heard them talk about these things before. And a lot of times, you'll do things on your own accord, and the lowlifes they get to coerce you actually will fake it out that you are not the one doing it, but them, just to collect money from the people that are paying them. Water seeks its own level, and I guess if you lie with the dogs, you get rabies. They're all rabid dogs. They'll chew each other up too. People like this, the scumbag of the earth type people that have no qualms accepting money or information without investigation of face value as reasoning to destroy people's lives and those around them, are sick. Whoever's funding these game stocks against me has banked. Because I'm telling you, they have given their local harassers that harass me plenty of equipment to make their job easier. And it takes a whole slew of them. Why, it's me against all of them. And that's the case for most targeters. Oftentimes they have more than one remote neural monitor or voice-to-skull. And I want to tell you about several bands that are used, not musical bands, but I'm talking about radio wave bands. Different high-end and low-end frequencies that are used in concurrence with audible V2K, audible voice-to-skull that you can hear. And that is used to distract you, whatnot, whatever, hypnotize you. The subliminal frequencies are far more dangerous to the human mind, as they can influence your behavior without you realizing it, as most people aren't able to pick up the noise, let alone the words that are being driven into their heads via the subliminal V2K. And it's this stuff that may be being used widespread upon the public in general through systems like HARP and other systems that Echelon, for example. There's these systems in place that monitor us. And now they're entrusting this stuff into the hands of your fellow neighbors, your fellow citizens, and your local neighborhood lowlifes and criminals just to get to you. And they offer them incentives, promise them protection, or promise them to let them off of a charge or something, perhaps. Kind of a way of bailing out of jail without money. So they'll do what they have to do, irregardless of what type of person a target is. Whether they be the best person in the world, or whether they just be a common average person. Everybody makes mistakes. But they will demonize and ridicule and deform the character of these targets just to entice others into the stalk and keep it going, and to bring humiliation on them publicly online. A lot of these, I believe mine in particular, illegal surveyors and local stalkers, as well as the more remote ones that do the long-range monitoring, are tied into pornographic and voyeur groups, and have told me they watch my wife and me in intimate moments, told me they watch my children in the bathrooms. I know they watch me in the bathrooms, or at least they say they do. They want me to think these things anyway. Now, I've been getting some pretty heavy harassment here lately, voice to skull, the last few days, so I've been kind of laying offline and gathering evidence the last 2 days of my local harassment, which is done by either one set or more of my local neighbors, mainly right here in my own fucking building, from what I can tell. Perhaps even neighbors on both sides of me, one of which I stays there. I'm distantly related to. Who knows who all is involved in your stalks. There's arguments made that some people will say, there's two sides of this fence anyway, but some people will say, hey, it's all remote. There is no local harassment on you. Well, in my case, there is. And then there's others that'll say there's no frequency harassment. It's all done locally through psych outs and PVC pipe and sink drains, plumbing, whatever have you, noisemakers, speakers, whatever. Both of these are right or both of these are wrong. There's truth to some of them and there's untruth. In my case, I really feel the local harassment that are done by my local neighbors, one set of which I absolutely know beyond a shadow of a doubt is involved in it. It complements the long-range and remote V2K frequency. And plus, having people nearby you in the game stalk allows them to deliver energy pulse weapons at you, such as microwave guns and laser pulses and plasma weapons and other really nasty stuff. Okay? This stuff is really happening to people, and this is a terrible crime. And hoping that one day you guys will, have the opportunity to do what I'm doing right now, and that is exposing evidence, slowly but surely, and getting more solid, concrete evidence, and not being in a hurry to just dispel that evidence, but continue to collect it and do your own investigation until you nail for certain at least some of your perpetrators. And I believe I've nailed up to 6 to 7 people I know in my game stalk, and that's not paranoia. That's just the simple, hardcore facts. Sucks. But that's the way it is, and that's what's going on. And a lot of times it's a lot more local than what we care to admit. Nobody wants to think, hey, somebody's messing around my yard at night, or somebody's, directing frequency at me from up the street or across the street or whatever. But with modern technology and people being as twisted and depraved as what they are, I'm sure you've heard about the court cases where people will set up cameras and video cameras in people's houses that are triggered by heat signature or switches, and then you know, they're illegally voyeurizing their home. There's a whole sick, twisted, illegal porn industry online right now that makes a lot of money doing this twisted shit to people. And it's a goddamn crime, and it needs to be stopped. And these game stalkers are in on these sort of things too. Some of them have drugged people, and they'll claim to do any number of things, just horrendous things. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the, I mean, anybody that talks about cannibalizing another human being's flesh, such as my game stalkers have me, and even have feeding my flesh to my children after I die. I mean, these are some really twisted people, folks. Not all of them are dangerous. A lot of them are just that sick and twisted in the head, and mainly they're cowardly and won't ever do anything. But if they think they can one-up you, if they think they can intimidate you, if they think they can bully you around, by golly, they will. So you have to be strong. And, you know, people are going to think you're paranoid when you make these little documentary things that I do. But that's exactly what you should do. Raise your voice. Use the power of democracy to document your harassment. And, you know, like I said, they're controlling our minds with various different frequencies. One frequency could be talking to you voice to skull, and there could be ones on low ends and high ends going right into your subconscious and unconscious minds you don't even hear, getting you to act and behave in certain ways, in concordance with impulse signal, and superimposing, which is flashing in images of a certain thing in one's mind to get your thinking on track to that. Okay? They have the advantages. What's amazing is so many targets do actually survive these things, and unfortunately some targets don't. Some targets go completely insane or wind up getting killed or framed, murdered, disappear, whatever have you. Believe me, if any of those things happen, that's not a coincidence. That's definitely not. Okay? These people are threatening everybody in my life, especially my loved ones. And that is the type of terrorism and intimidation that's being used by corporations, mafia, criminals, and the United States military branches and government. It's corruption on the highest end, and they will find all kinds of different ways of justifying it. Look on YouTube, it's everywhere. They're already trying to find reasons to allow this to continue and do it legally. This shit should be highly illegal. It's a complete invasion of privacy. Okay, the street cameras are one thing, but infiltrating a person's thoughts through remote neural technology, controlling a person's mind through subliminal frequency they can't even discern on a conscious level. This is criminality of the worst kind. And it's also creating criminals. People have speculated that the Connecticut school shooter was already autistic. And people have speculated that he was an actual TI that could not fully digest the psych outs that were being sent to him through frequency. And it drove him crazy, and eventually he flipped out. Same with the Colorado theater shooter. There's a big stink over this. So folks, I want to thank you for listening and tuning in to William the Bastard Slaps You Awake. A little bit low as this particular mic has trouble picking up. I just want to catch up on a situation. That situation is complaints and reports and people that have told me personally through their own testimony and stories about victims of remote neural monitoring and voice to skull actually being subjects in an online or satellite network video game of some sort, where whether the objective is to harass or embarrass, humiliate, do character defamation on the target, or whether it is to actually eliminate the target. These video games are apparently happening to some extent, and I'm not really sure of everything about them, but I found it very interesting to learn this, that people feel like they're the subject in an actual video game. Now, I myself have at points, especially earlier on in my harassment, and perhaps it's still going on and I'm unaware, that I felt like perhaps they were placing me on some kind of online video game, just by some of the lingo and some of the language they'd say. One thing they like to do too is that I don't think a lot of people realize what's going on is the several bands of V2K frequency that they send us in concordance with our remote neural monitoring. And while you're hearing one thing in what is called an audible voice-to-skull transmission, which means one you can pretty much pick up, they could be sending several other messages into your subconscious simultaneously to divert your attention from being able to detect those quite as well. It's pretty scary stuff. It is mind control. And a lot of people are suggesting that this subliminal frequency V2K stuff is a lot more common when it's not noticed than when it is actually noticed by people. If somebody picks up frequencies that are not meant to be heard, oftentimes they say they become torture victims, remote neural torture. If anybody knows of any online video games that read people's minds, any online networks engaged in this activity, a lot of this stuff is just really sick and twisted and perverse that people have told me that they go through. Please hit me up, message me, let me know, because it's important to victims that they understand the full breadth and scope of what is going on with their harassment, and so we can pinpoint the types of people, what type of person would do this, and maybe bring them to justice, because I can't express to you the horrible invasion of privacy and the terrible humiliation, which I'm very hard to humiliate, but a lot of other targets are sensitive, and that we go through as victims. I mean, it's just so damn awful. I mean, they've done some really whacked out stuff to me. I've told you about some of it before. Maybe one day when we all get this thing behind us, I can tell you the whole bit. I want to, but I don't want to give them any more credit than they deserve. They don't deserve to have everything, heard that they harass us with. What is important is that we spread the word about the key points that are helpful to not only ourselves but to others throughout all the TI boards and TI communities worldwide. The more we share info with one another, the absolute more knowledge we're going to have as to the capabilities and different types of methods that are used by these criminals. And I don't care if they claim to be deputized or not, police. If the people harassing me are police, they are some twisted people. If they're any kind of authority, firemen, EMT, whatever, these people have some definite issues. They really need to be put away. I mean, anybody that talks about cannibalizing other human beings and biopsying their flesh from funeral home for a fee from the morticians. I mean, these people just talk some really whacked out stuff that I have never even been able to imagine in the worst John Carpenter movie. I mean, it's just, these people make Leatherface look pretty mentally sound, or at least more blunt and to the point, direct about it. These people can come up with shit that only Hollywood script writers on acid may be able to, I mean bad acid, you know, would be able to come up with. It's just whack. And I'm sorry that so many of us have to go through it, guys. And just do what I do. Use the power of your voice. Lift the signal of democracy high. And understand that there could be a lot more than just recognized TIs that are victims of this terrible surveillance upon us. I want to also state that they seem to be able to repeat words from conversations or take them out of context a lot of times, and play them back to you. And this could be years and years and years in the past. This is an intense psych out, and it works quite well to get your attention. It almost never fails. I'm not sure how they do that beyond being able to probe your subconscious mind and interrogate you while you're asleep to have a more submissive response toward what they're asking you, getting you to say exactly what they want in your sleep, and then use that against you, or like I said, make it to be something that it never was, but really piss you off over it, or just trip you out. Alright guys, keep on sharing. I love some of the posts I've been seeing. I love the fact that there's worldwide agencies. Hopefully soon there'll be a group effort governmentally from the United States of America to bring these things to address them to Senate and Congress, because something has got to be done about the targeting, the legal surveillance, and the harassment of everyday American citizens that just happen to have an opinion or say the wrong thing or disagree with somebody, and the next thing they know, they're going to be targeted until death. It's a very sick and awful crime, and it really hurts the people around the targets as well. See you guys later.